There may be trouble ahead. The latest from our daily newsletter at podnews.net. Audioboom has published its financials for the first half of 2022. Revenue up 79% on the same period last year. Profit $2 million. That's 10 times larger. And the company's doing 124 million downloads a month. Shares fell, though, after the company noted a softening in advertiser demand for quarter three because of lower consumer spending. Pushkin Industries has purchased podcast creator Transmitter Media. Transmitter's founder and CEO, Greta Cohn, will join Pushkin's senior leadership team. Terms weren't given. A TV show is shifting to podcasting. Family Feud, the podcast, has been launched by ARN's iHeart Podcast Network Australia. The show is also called Family Fortunes in the UK. The podcast features two showbiz stars pitched against each other. Will it be rubbish? Our survey said, no, it'll be brilliant. Following the acquisition of Podchaser by Acast, Acast's Ross Adams and Podchaser's Bradley Davis will be on the Podland podcast this Thursday. Meanwhile, Matthew Passy wonders if the acquisition enables Acast to, quote, spam more podcasters. Matt Kundle wonders whether to keep information on Podchaser or take it off. And Blueberry's Todd Cochran says he'll pull all his shows because of Acast's, quote, spamming and poaching. Well, Acast tells us the acquisition is completely unrelated to our email marketing strategy. I would also note that Acast doesn't appear to have sent a cold email marketing campaign to anyone since mid-June. Perhaps they've heard us. One podcast company, though, has emailed the address in our RSS feed 216 times since May. And no, Acast didn't mail us once in that period. Should we publish a list of the biggest podcast spammers? Should we name and shame? Send us a boostergram in a new podcast app and let us know. Podtrac has published its top US podcast publishers for June. iHeartRadio is still number one for podcasts, though SXM Media, who are believed to be larger, is not a participating publisher. iHeartRadio downloads fell 3.8% month on month. Wondery is the new number two, overtaking NPR. Auphonic and Hindenburg have announced an integration. The audio post-production system now appears as a publish point in the software. Think you know the icons and logos from podcasting? The Podcast Quiz is a brand new daily game that tests you. In New Zealand, Spotify is testing a feature to record your own podcast directly into the app. But listening to the podcasts also appears geo-locked to New Zealand too. We're linked to one in our show notes and our newsletter at podnews.net. Hiding in an article about the goings-on in British radio at the moment from Matt Deegan is a graph showing revenue from Danny Baker's Treehouse, a podcast now entirely behind a Patreon paywall. It shows, says Deegan, the problem dealing with expiring credit cards and unsubscriptions. Podcast One has announced 14 additional podcasts. Libsyn's AdvertiseCast has a new exclusive ad partnership deal with Bigger Pockets. AdsWiz shared video of two panels that the company participated in at the Cannes Lions. Podmov Daily, Podcast Movement's daily newsletter that's almost as good as this one, celebrated its 3-year anniversary. Congratulations, Brennan and the team from this 5.1-year-old. And Joe Rogan has said another awful thing, hoping to get press coverage. Dope! And that's the latest from our newsletter. To read all the stories and subscribe, we're at podnews.net.